Hello and welcome to Ideon Sharp Minds Session's webinar. My name is Fredrik Josephson and I'm the founder of SB Greenhouse. Greenhouse was founded with the focus of scaling companies, really trying to help scaling companies succeed faster and better than by themselves. And it's a complement to the banking platform with networks accessing all the people out there that you might need access to in order to succeed faster than your competitors. But it also has programs that will help you to succeed and taking you from A to Z. For example, you might have plateaued in your scaling ambitions, but you might also have a challenge in, for example, how to step up your sustainability approach in order to meet requirements from larger contractors and from larger companies that you're trying to win agreements with. So there's tons of inspirational events going on within Greenhouse. There's tons of programs going on within Greenhouse. And what has happened since then is that we've actually realized that this is not just for scaling companies. So we expanded our offer with Greenhouse to actually also incorporate the early stage when you get started. It's maybe a great ambition to get started, but how do you really do it and how do you go about? Is there any way that you can learn from others that have gone the path before you? Of course there is. And that's what Greenhouse is also about. Finding ways of actually transferring other people's experience to you. Best practice, if you like. There's also times when you don't really succeed and things are in a decline. And in challenging times, more than ever, you actually need friends around you. So we have programs that will actually help you in trying to figure out how you can come back and reach your ambitions again, get back on track again. And that is just a few of the programs that we have. We also have inspirational events, and the events are there to learn from others. So it's about listening into, for example, Jacob de Geer, and hearing how he actually succeeded in scaling his company to the point where he hit the public records of selling to PayPal. But the journey to that point, that's probably the most important and interesting story. So things like that you will learn from our events, and that's just part of the Greenhouse family. But the Greenhouse family also consists of networks and partners, just like Ideon, who is a partner of ours. And I'm not here just to talk about Greenhouse today. I'm actually here to welcome you to today's program. And today's program is all about growth through simplifying for your customers. So without further ado, welcome to the program.
Hi, and welcome to the Ideon Sharp Minds Sessions, where we will talk about how to simplify for the customers through digitization. The Sharp Minds Sessions are our way of reusing and sharing valuable knowledge of scale-up leadership from companies having developed actually here in the park. My name is Mia Rolf, and I'm the CEO of Ideon Science Park, and I will be the host today. And our Sharp Minds that I have here today is they are also mentors in our mentorship program 2020-2021 for two of our lucky startups in the park. And today you will hear how Germany is turning from old school parking to digital, city by city. Yep. You will also hear how the personnel-heavy recruitment industry protested when a newcomer stated the process could be digitized and speed it up sufficiently. So all of you, welcome to this live sent session. And let me present my guests here today. We have Niclas Wate. Welcome.
Hello, Mia.
Hi, you are the founder of the RecTech company, Recruitment Tech, yes? The company is called ROI Rekrytering, ROI Recruitment for the English speakers. A digital service using AI to automate large parts of the recruitment process at Ideon. And you founded this company at Ideon Innovation, our incubator, at 2009.
Correct.
Yes. But today, the company has been a DI Gazelle growth company for 4 years. And you run a network of CEOs of fast-growing companies. And last we checked, your turnover was over 25 million Swedish kronor. So congratulations to your success.
Thank you.
And welcome. And we have also here Henrik Hallgren,
yep,
founder of another company from the Ideon incubator, Ideon Innovation. Your company is called Parkster, developing a digital app parking app parking. No, a digital parking app, sorry for that.
Yep.
The parking app is making machines irrelevant, and you are rolling out now in Germany, city after city. You already won Sweden, yes? And yeah. Well, over 40% of the Swedish car owners has the park in their mobile phone and use it almost every day. And the turnover 2020 was over 500 million Swedish kronor. So that's also congratulations
big
to your
milestone.
success.
Yeah.
Additionally to that, you have won the DAI Gazelle Award 2 years in a row, and in 2019 you won the EY Entrepreneur of the Year for the South region here in Sweden. So 2 famous, successful scale-up leaders. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And now we're
inviting us.
trying to pick your brain and to learn from you what you have learned during your journey. If I start with Niclas.
Sure.
And we go back to where it all started. You could see some sort of pain in the industry or some sort of need.
Well, recruitment, this was 11, 12 years ago, was quite time consuming. And when it's time consuming, at least in Sweden, it also becomes expensive. So we were trying to find ways to make it less reliant on old methods and the high invoicing that comes out of it. So basically we combined human recruitment knowledge or craftsmanship and combined it with technology in order to take away some of the sort of administration behind recruitment to save time, basically. And you can either complain about how it is, or you can try to do something, and we tried to sort of own that process. So we did things in other ways than the industry did back then. And some then called us rebels. If you add a good rebel, I agree. So we're trying to sort of break patterns in a way and do things differently, and not based on how the industry works or worked, but more what the customer actually need.
But usually when you disrupt an industry, you're not immediately the good guys.
No.
So you were like questioning the status quo, and you actually took on to teach them a whole new way of doing things.
Yeah, we try to.
Was that easy?
Well, it's easy if you don't come from the industry. You don't have the strings to the industry, and you are more free to do things in a different way, and that's a disadvantage to some degree. And for me, it was also an advantage. And we thought that the transparency in recruitment was so low. There were 3 candidates popping out at the end of the process that you were able to meet. But what happened in between? What were the other candidates? And this was sort of a black box that the customer did not have access to. So we tried to make it from a black box to a glass box, so that the customer could actually, through making the process digital, get access to every single step if they're interested, if they're keen, to see who applied, how did the recruiter respond to them, and to make it sort of open and transparent. And also in that way you can choose whether you would like to do some parts yourself. Because you can be involved in a completely different way in the recruitment process.
So you actually also not only made it digitalized, but you cut it up into pieces so you can pick and choose.
Correct. Flexibility. And that was also, back then, all recruitment firms wanted to sell a full recruitment from A to Z and charge this amount. And why is that? A lot of companies then didn't go to recruitment companies because they choose to do everything themselves. And perhaps they did have skills for some parts and not fully the skills for other parts. And why not just have help with the parts that you're actually missing the time or the competence to do?
So what would you say were the largest obstacles in that early phase?
Many, I would say. One thing was cash. That was an issue for sure, and we did not have reference cases basically to base our arguments on why people should change their behavior. And
So then trust perhaps also was something you had to build.
yeah, sure. And in my business, if you have a good reference, that builds trust. And also, there was a recession, 2009, so
Oh, yes.
companies did not really recruit that much. That was also a problem. And
Maybe not the best time.
no. And from a personal perspective, I'd worked in Norway, Finland, Germany. I didn't have a network in this part of the country or in any part of Sweden. So, and back then, the personal network was how you built a recruitment company. And I didn't have that. So there were many obstacles. So one could wonder why I actually did this in the first place.
But what was driving you?
Well, I've been part of sort of startup phases.
Yes.
Previously within big organizations, and I find that there's so much energy in those phases.
Yes.
So there's a lot of problems always, but it's also a lot of fun. So I was sort of, when I was moving back to Sweden, I was looking for these kind of ideas, and I got this idea presented to me, and I found that this is a sort of a game changer in a business, and that's something that sort of triggers something in me.
True, and but even so, the first customers are always really, really important.
Yeah.
The ones that believe in you, even though you have nothing.
Yeah.
So who were they, and why did they?
Well, we got a few smaller customers, but the one that I recall that made a difference to us was Ideon, which at the time was a very high-profile company.
Yeah.
A bit like Parkster is today, to be honest. and they were a bit fed up with the recruitment firms wanted to do everything for them. They wanted to be much more involved than they were let to be. So we were open to this. This was basically our major idea. So that sort of triggers gaining other customers. But there's also been customers like Grizzly Zoo. They are now Arken Zoo.
Yeah.
We met them and said, you can either do it yourself through our software, or we can do it for you. You have the choice. And they said, we don't want that. We don't have time to do it ourselves, and it's too expensive if you do everything for us. We want to do this, you can do this, we do this. And we said, okay, let's be open to this. And we did this a couple of times. And then we thought, maybe this is something that other companies want as well. so we packaged it and we called it Enkel Rekrytering or Simple Recruitment.
Yeah.
And it turned out after 1 year, that was the most sold product that we had.
So you actually learned from your first customers a great deal.
We did. So we tried to sort of listen to them and see what they really needed, because we had ideas, but sometimes you're right and sometimes you're not, and so you have to sort of have at least 2 years.
Yeah, and you mentioned cash. How did you solve that?
Well, I went up in a hotel in Lund, the Grand Hotel. There was a lunch that was organized by Connect Skåne, and there were 70 entrepreneurs or business angels or investors, what you would like to call them. And I got 10-15 minutes to present the concept of ROI Rekrytering and why we thought this was needed. And 4 of them actually said that, okay, we would like to speak more to you. So they went into the company and made an investment. Not from the start, they wanted us to reach some certain milestones, but that happened. So over time, we got access to that funding, and they are still with us. And 2 of them.
And they are what you call like smart money, so they enter with their own.
Well, 2 of them are and also when a crisis arises, it's good to have other people than only yourself to rely on.
Yes, because you're quite lonely when you're leading a company. Sorry, Henrik.
I'm just sort of curious. Did you see when you got all of this started? Was someone else sort of trying out anything in that field as well, or were you sort of going first?
There are not companies really that putting together recruitment knowledge and new technology. Most companies are either a sort of a software company completely, a bunch of developers, not really having the craftsmanship, or you have really strong senior recruitment consultants. But it's not been really combined. And I see that's sort of a lack, and that's a sort of our blue water where we would like to swim.
Blue ocean,
Yeah.
And so and the flexibility that you could pick and choose. I think that's also something that many companies appreciate.
Yeah.
That they control themselves.
And
what
that has changed, but you need to be a sort of a qualified buyer. If you ask, I only want to do this, or I only want to buy this, of course, most often you get a yes. But my industry has not been really good at educating the customers, because there was a sort of financial gain from not educating them.
Yeah.
So we try to sort of, our mission is also to educate them to become better at recruiting themselves.
Yeah.
We are happy to do it for them, but we also would like them to take next steps.
And by doing that, you actually make it simpler. You simplify for the customer their usage. It can fit into their part of the business. But you also simplify for the end user, which is the candidates, right?
That's the idea. My wife, a couple of years ago, she applied for a job at a big company, and it took her 2 evenings to send in the application and get everything right and tick in all the boxes. And that's not the way it should be. It should be easy to apply. Today you should be able to apply through your mobile phone. You can read the ad on the bus, and you should be able to apply instantly. And more importantly, candidates rarely got feedback. Because if you send in an email, you get maybe 115 emails. You don't have the system to respond to everybody, to update them.
You don't know if you have responded to everybody.
So
but in your system you do.
Yeah, sure. And many of these things are automatic.
Yeah.
So you can take away the insecurity that you have not done things, and you don't have to spend the time on it.
Fantastic. Now we have to talk to Henrik. Your pain or your demand actually originated in your personal pain about parking, right?
That's true. It was a personal experience.
Yeah.
I was at the time I was studying at the university. I had actually had thoughts that I wanted to sort of get started with something. I knew a couple of people that had started their small businesses. So I think, in a sense, you were searching for something. I was searching for something. I had an idea. I had booked a web page, and then the same month I got 3 parking fines.
3?
The same month.
Yeah, that's a pain. That's a big pain.
Yeah, that's a pain. And being a student, that's a lot of money as well.
Yes.
1 is a pain, I would say.
Yeah. But 3 really drives home the point. And I had one of my best friends. He also got continually a whole bunch of parking fines. And I sort of started. I paused. I thought, hey, what's going on? Why is this happening? Is it because I don't want to pay for the parking? Well, that's not the thing.
No.
It wasn't my friend's thing either. We were fine with paying, but it was so hard to pay. It was hard to do right by yourself. Because, one of the times I actually searched the parking lot. I didn't find the machine. And
that
then
has
I sort
happened
of,
to me too.
I can't do this.
No.
I need to go to my meeting, and so I didn't pay, and I got back and had the present at the windshield. Yeah, and once I was at a meeting, that it took a lot longer than expected, and I ran out of time. So I started thinking, okay, how can you solve this problem differently? Has someone solved it? Can I get out of this pain?
How can I never get a ticket
Yeah,
again?
yeah.
Yes,
But
I understand that.
But there wasn't a good solution by then.
No.
There were solutions with IVR. You call a phone number and you dial. It sounded like exchanging one problem for a different problem.
Yes.
And so my conclusion, okay, there's no good solution for this. But I had, my first sort of friends had bought the first 3G phones. So you didn't really have the iPhone or the apps yet, but suddenly the 3G phones came. You had a good screen, or a better screen than before, so you can have an interface there. All of them had built-in internet connection that didn't cost a fortune. You were meant to use it, and they had GPS built in. So, okay, this is a device that knows where it is. You have an interface, and it can talk to the outside world. Can't this thing figure out how much I should pay and just take care of it? And I started to sort of elaborate on that idea. I couldn't shake that idea. It sort of haunted me. And I realized, okay, no one has done anything with this to solve the parking problem. Then I must do that. and I decided to start something to solve it and build an app to solve it.
And many of us are already using it, but if you describe what you do in the app, just
Well, you know,
shortly.
it's to sort of simplify, the app is basically a parking machine, but in your phone. So you can just, the app knows where you are.
Yeah.
You can say, this is your parking lot.
Yeah,
And you say, yeah, how long do you want to pay, what car?
yeah,
And that's all you have to do. And you can set a preliminary time,
yeah.
but you can change that at any moment
Or
as
you can
well.
stop
So-
when you come back to
Yeah,
the
so
car,
you-
which
when
is
you
the
come back,
one
you
thing that
stop it.
I was always late. I thought this meeting is only 30 minutes, but it never was. So I think that's also one of the success things.
Yeah,
with
that's
the
a
app.
really important part, that you don't need to know how long you're going to
No.
be there. Yeah.
So you made it simpler for the user, the end user, but you also simplified for the actual parking owners.
Yeah, I mean, we have two.
After a while.
Yeah, we have two customers, and that's
Yeah.
important to think about. We have the end users, but then we also have the parking operators or the parking companies, and we need to take care of both of them because we want to add our solution to the portfolio that the parking company has, and we need to make sure that the end users like it and start to use it as well. For the parking operators, well, you can increase customer service, and also you can get less reliant on a very expensive metal box that also breaks down from time to time.
It does, yes.
We actually, one of our biggest peaks in increased usage was when the whole island of Gotland was cut off from the payment network.
Can that
No
happen?
parking machine
Okay.
on the entire island worked. You couldn't pay them anymore.
Okay.
And so the only thing you had remaining was our app. And I think it stayed like that for 48 hours maybe.
How can you
and-
make that happen in Germany?
Well, you just hope for good luck.
Icelandic volcanoes have or something. No,
But that's, I mean, there's a little bit of a point to it for the parking operators. If you don't have anything else, then you won't have any revenues
No.
for that day or
That's
those
a
hours.
problem.
And that can be a lot of money that is lost. And
like
it's
a
also a common occurrence that, someone breaks your machine. They put chewing gum in it or whatnot. And then you
And
don't
what
have,
should you do with all the?
and
if
then you don't have
cash?
the revenue anymore.
Yeah, in Sweden we don't use cash anymore.
Yeah.
But in other countries they might have a cash problem also with the metal box that should be emptied and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that.
And actually, some of our first Swedish customers, when they still had cash, and they don't now, but by then they were sort of calculating how many tons of coins do we have to collect from the machines. And
That's a heavy
by
work.
adding Parkster, they could sort of, we
Yeah.
removed this amount of hundreds of kilos of coins. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's great. And in Germany, they are working a lot with coins still.
They are.
So that's a thing, and that's something we can talk about. How many sort of kilos or tons of coins can you stop moving around?
And of course the man hours to
Yeah,
empty and go around and servicing those machines. I understand. So, but in the very, very beginning, how did you convince these parking owners that this was the way forward? And what were your largest obstacles getting started?
I think that we could sell the idea, sort of, if you have an app instead, that's a really good solution, better customer service and more security in getting their revenue streams. But for example, the part of saving money from having less machines, they couldn't really see that in the beginning.
They couldn't see it happening even.
Because you can't start with that. You
No.
can't just, okay, I add an app, I remove the machines.
No.
You will have both initially. And then when you get apps going and they're successful, then you can start operating with fewer machines. But that takes several years. So they couldn't really see that from the beginning. Also, a big question is building trust. I mean,
Yes.
you need
Yeah, we
the
talked
reference
about trust.
cases
Yeah.
and you need trust.
Yeah.
In our case, we're we're actually handling their revenue streams. We're handling their money. And that's, of course, a really important question. So they need to sort of feel that, okay, this is...
And being a small startup is really
so that's hard. They
Yeah.
need to sort of believe in the idea and trust that you're doing something good. Also, they want to do something and they want to integrate and build things on that and gain momentum on the whole thing. So they can't just pick something and just try. They sort of, okay, we want to be able to do this for several years. That also sort of increases the stakes and makes it harder to get going.
Quite a long sales process then.
And you also went into the public sector quite from the beginning. And most people would advise you not to go there because the decision making takes so long time. That's certainly an obstacle when it comes to the public sector. The sort of one of the gains we could have by going there is you have one player that is only in one town. And we want to get sort of network effects that we want an app that you can use pretty much once you join. Private companies are more sort of spread out over many cities.
And it wouldn't be a service.
And it wouldn't work as well
if you don't
to
have
start
one
there.
place.
But if you can start with, when you start with your municipality, you can go big in one town straight away. So that was important to us. But sort of more work.
But did you know that from the beginning, or did you start a little
Well, we had already from the beginning the sense that we need to sort of gain critical mass in a city to get it going. So looking at municipalities felt logical.
And who was the first customer?
Well, the first customer was actually the parking company owned by the municipality here in Lund. So we talked mostly to that's really good. And we talked mostly to municipalities in Skåne initially. But there was a new sort of management team in the parking company in Lund, and they were, I think, a little bit extra looking for new ideas. And it resonated well what we presented, saying, okay, a good app, and also a focus on, we wanted the end users to be able to use the app without any extra cost. All sort of the other solutions, IVR or whatnot, they were based on, they were trying to sell something that is better, and the app is better as well, but and charge for that. So
it was more expensive.
It costs more to park from IVR than the machine, but we wanted to have that sort of being equal. We think we will do something a lot better. How are you going to go if you were a bank and you were offering internet banking, and if all transactions are a lot more expensive doing internet banking than to the office? Well, then everyone would still go to the office. So let's not go there. And they liked that idea, and they were prepared to sort of do, well, initially a trial with us, and that then seemed promising, and we could move forward. And I sort of, in hindsight, I think it was doing that in Lund was a really good city, because also, I mean, with the mobile clusters all around, I think, because if we hadn't gotten end users to start using the app, because they need to do that sort of voluntarily. If that wouldn't happen, the parking operator would sort of feel, well, no one really wants this, let's forget about it again. And Lund was probably one of the best cities to do that. We tried to put up some small signs or posters, and we had no money, and we sort of had to figure clever things out. But there were people around that sort of, an app for parking, that's really cool, I want to try that. I don't think that would have been the case in all cities, but in Lund it was. So we could actually get traction, we could, people could start talking about it, and it could grow. And I think actually, like the first year we got one contract, and that was in Lund. I think the second year we got 2 contracts. The third year 4 contracts. It was really slow at the beginning, but you needed those, and you needed a couple of more, and then a couple of more companies in the field could sort of listen and join, and then eventually you could gain a good momentum.
Cool. And your startup funding, did you have it all covered from the beginning, or?
Well, we were sort of all in on bootstrapping.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, in my life and the co-owners that I brought along, the timing was okay because I had a girlfriend by then, and we were living together, but we had never had that both had a paycheck. I worked a couple of years before I went full-time with Parkster, but when I went full-time with Parkster, well, I didn't really get any money from the company. But my wife, that was when she started working, and she started to get a salary. So at least we had one salary at home, and we sort of, okay, you have to be efficient
really
with the money.
Yeah.
And then what I did was, when we needed more, what we needed was mainly manpower to do things and to develop the system. And so I brought in co-owners that got shares in the company, and that worked a lot for free. That was the main method we used, and we worked a lot of weekends and evenings, and there was also a period when I sort of, okay, I need to quit my old job and just do this, and well, it took a little bit longer than I thought, but finally we could sort of get everything going, and we managed to as well, and that was, I think, an important part. We managed to sort of get a deal with all the co-owners that, okay, we're trying to do this. We have to be a little bit patient and sort of look at the long road, and let's just work and let's believe in what we do. So we didn't have a deadline and say we have 9 months and then we give up. It was sort of we're trying to do this, and and we could sort of along the way we could partly see it's going to take longer than we think, but we are gaining sort of traction.
Did you also have that in mind, that it's going to be a long run?
Well, I'm one of the people that have also done this PowerPoint hockey stick developments. But
what do you want to happen?
The learnings have been that perseverance, sticking to the idea and fighting for a long time, that's what's going to bring you results.
Yes.
Very few things come easy in the beginning.
Exactly.
Later on, some things actually come easy at times, not always, but at times. But in the beginning, basically nothing comes easy.
No. That's very true.
So we know that we have many entrepreneurs watching this. So and some of them are in the startup phase, and they want to know this, because both of you are now in the true scale-up phase. You found your hockey stick growth, you could say. What challenges? Or let me start with this. When did you feel that, oh my God, this is really going to take off? This might actually happen. Do you remember if you have some sort of, feeling about that, or a revolutionary understanding of that? Or did it just, haven't you understood it yet?
Well,
Where are you?
It's difficult with numbers, because often you look at numbers and see that's where it took off.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it's like you have a stone and you're trying to push it and it's not even moving.
No.
But then if you continue to push, it starts rolling, and it's like the energy stays with the stone.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there's a customer calling in. And you get a reference, and things sort of start happening. But that shows in the numbers. But it's when you get to the office and see, okay, there's no space for me to sit today. There's a new colleague coming next Monday, and then it becomes very obvious to you that you need to move, and you also have to become an expert in moving when you start scaling up. So you always have to have the moving boxes available to you.
Yeah. When did you understand that this could actually happen?
Well, I like your metaphor there with the stone and moving the stone and gaining momentum, and that happens gradually. So it can be hard to say when did it really pick up speed. Well, it picked up speed all along. And I know I looked a lot into our numbers and how were we doing sort of week by week, and I was sort of trying to plan future recruitments based on, okay, I think we're going to earn more money in 2 months' time, and it takes couple of months to recruit. So
Yeah.
we can start that now, and we can pay for that once they're ready, I hope.
Yeah.
But if that wouldn't pan out, if we were going to sort of flatline a bit,
Yes.
well, that wouldn't work. So I was sort of a little bit afraid of that.
Yeah.
And looking at the numbers, and there was quite a lot of instances where I thought, well, maybe we're not growing anymore. But when I look at it now afterwards, I can't see any
Where
good moment
these-
there where
No.
it was looking flat. Because it can get hidden in the noise.
Yes.
When you're just looking this week and last week or just a month, I mean, if you're growing at, for just 1 month, 5%, that's really a lot if you do that the entire year. But just to see 5% when it's noisy day by day, you can't really see that. But I think one of the things for me that sort of told me, okay, this is really picking up steam, was that from my initial business planning, I did a hockey stick thing there as well, but I thought this is going to take 3 years, and we hadn't at all come very far after those 3 years. But one of the plannings there was, if I maybe guess that, let's say this is super successful and we have 25% of all parking tickets sold are mobile. That's huge if that happens. Only 15% of all phones are smartphones when I was calculating this. But at a moment we had actually we had passed 20-25% penetration rate. How many of all the tickets in our leading cities are actually sold from the phone? It was sort of, oh, this is really big. This is not sort of a small phenomenon. This is becoming a big chunk of the operations for the companies, for the parking operators. That sort of started to tell me this is really becoming big. And I think it actually only took like a little bit over 1 year, and some cities passed 50% instead.
Wow.
And like
So
if
much
it
quicker
took
than you
sort of
have-
5 years to get to the 25,
Yeah.
but it took only a little bit over 1 year to reach 50.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a little bit like I think you call it an S curve
Yes.
with the adoption rate, and that's when I realized, okay, this becomes really big. The parking sector in its own grows because people move into the cities, and then the penetration rate grows quickly as well. And that's sort of, okay, so if we pass 50 and a lot of cities do that, and we're one of the big players, okay, that's
kind of good.
becoming big.
Yeah.
I think that was...
I've heard when it comes to technological change, most people overestimate the change on short term, but they underestimate the change long term.
Yeah.
And that's sort of
And
what the
that's
story
the-
tells.
That's an
That's an
example of that.
understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now you're moving fast, but what have you had to change in your leadership? Because I always try to pick that out of because you're in the process now and you're just living it. But when you went from the startup phase, when everyone was creative and you were thinking of new ideas all the time, to where you are now, when you actually have like a process of doing things, what did you learn about yourself and the leadership that you had to adapt to the situation? What would you say?
Well, in the beginning, it's easy in a way because you have control of the initiatives you take, the things you do, and you also have to do the job yourself.
Yeah. So you have fingers in
You
everything.
have fingers in everything, but when you get more people, you have to think of it a bit differently. And the solution we choose was to basically just sit down when we were 5 people. We sat down around the kitchen table in the office and discussed, okay, who are we? Who do we want to be? What kind of behavior do we want to have to be successful with this? And worked in workshops internally. And that sort of created basically our core values. And that led to a sort of framework for people to act themselves in a way. So, and also when we get new people in, we work a lot with these things in order for them to know, okay, this is the framework, this is how we behave, this is how we do things. And then you don't actually, that's replacing this sort of normal control in a sense.
Yes.
And
So
for
building from the values,
Yeah.
but also of course you're a recruitment company, so you know all about onboarding people.
Well,
I could guess.
it is important,
Yeah.
and the onboarding starts actually before the
Yeah.
person has started. And with recruitment, many people see recruitment as signing the contract with the employee, but that's only half the job. In order to make them actually deliver, half of the job at least is still there. So most companies spend too little time on the onboarding and pre-boarding, and it's actually simple things to make sure that the PCs and the mobile phone everything is available, that they are meeting some key persons the first couple of weeks, and it's simple things. And you just need a short checklist to make sure that you actually cover a really good experience from the start.
Yeah, those parts are really important. I think you sort of set the baseline as well for the new person that comes along. Sort of, okay, how does this company work? Do we think about things and have them prepared and then just go, or do you just arrive and everyone sort of, oh, did you start today? That's a
Big
small
difference,
details,
yeah.
but very big difference
Yes.
in sort of
Making
how
them-
they will think about how you should work as well.
It's very human that you want to be, when you come to a new place, you want to be welcomed.
Yes.
You want to be wanted, and that's the same for all people. And if you feel that way when you come to a new place, you chip in the extra energy.
Yeah.
And then when they are onboarded, how do you work? How would you describe your leadership to make this company still grow fast every day? How do you work with that?
Well, from my perspective and our firm, we've worked a lot with sort of establishing the culture that acts as a, like you talk, a compass that tells everyone how should we do, what are we trying to accomplish, how should we operate, what is important, what does everyone get to do by themselves, what kind of decisions can you take. And we have worked a lot with that, sort of even from the start, but we didn't maybe really know it initially. We just did it. And we sort of formed a culture, and it was a lot formed by, since we worked evenings, we worked weekends, we had to work extra with how do we bind everyone together, because we don't see each other all the time, and then some started to work at an actual office, but some still worked just weekends and evenings, and so we had meetups with retreats every now and then, and that also formed the culture. But then sort of maybe 1.5 to 2 years ago, we started up an official project to sort of actually say, okay, we have all of these pieces that are our culture and our values, but we've never put a name to them. We haven't distilled them down, so we can talk about that. And we did a project around that. And we actually formed a culture book as well, and we named our different values.
Great.
And we talked about what do they mean, and we tried to keep them alive. And that made it even easier to sort of grasp what is the culture and what do we mean by it, and to onboard new people into it. And we started to need it because initially, since we were 6 co-founders, initially they were a big part of the whole team. Let's say if we were 12 people, well, half of them were the co-founders, and they were sort of harbingers of the culture. But once we're getting more people, you need something else to take care of the culture as well.
So that's a critical success factor, that you have the culture and the values really thought through, and that's driving you forward. Are there other critical success factors, would you say, for scaling up?
I think it's not by far a one-man show. You have to sort of include other people, and the ones working at the companies is most important. Most often there are really good ideas with customers or with employees, and make sure that you create an atmosphere and also maybe specific events where you sort of pull these ideas out. And so internal use of people and ideas, but also externally. It's really good. We started both at Ideon Innovation, and basically what you get is you get a mirror, and you get scrutinized when it comes to your decisions, your priorities, and even if we left then after 2 years, I've continued to bring in these kind of organizations sometimes to bring up this mirror on yourself to make sure that you're actually doing the right things. And sometimes you get advice that is very useful and you can copy them or steal them and just do them. And sometimes you don't really agree and you go your own way. But to listen and get the ideas from others, I think it's important to continue to develop.
Yeah. And we talked earlier here about testing 3 different ideas at the same time and being quick to evaluate and pick the right future path.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that also one of the things that makes you fast learner and fast grower?
I think, one thing is to sort of continually try to sort of strive forward, try things, try to keep decision time short. It's better if you can do a lot of quick decisions, and they're fairly okay. And if they're bad, change course again. Then if you take too long time to try and do one decision good, it's actually quite easy to sort of go backwards towards, let's figure this really out. I think there's like a forced play that wants to do that a little bit. It's easier to, let's just do what we're doing and let's not do too fast, but try to always improve on that and then also sort of iterate with different ideas. Because you don't, a lot of the times you try something and it's when you actually try it that you actually get to know, is this right or wrong, or how does it work? You can talk a lot about it with your colleagues or someone externally, but a lot of the times it's once you actually do it that you find a lot of things out. So if you do more, you try more, and then you can change and pick the right path.
We're coming back to the learnings and the tips that you have for other scale-up leaders, but I have some questions here in the chat from the audience, and this one is for Niclas. How do you deal with the cognitive bias in recruitment? Do you understand the
Absolutely.
question? I don't. Please tell me.
Well, recruitment is very often based on gut feeling.
Yes.
And that means that if we are quite similar, I like Mia, she's so much energy, she's finding things
feel
up,
the
and
same way.
we should work together.
Yes.
And so, or we both play hockey, or whatever it is. So recruitment is often based not on competence, on what you actually need for that position, but looking for twins on yourself. So it's the new technology helps a lot, taking away the bias that we have built into recruitment, and that is something that humans do naturally. We are biased by nature. So in order to put up the process differently and use the tools available, you can bring away a lot of the bias. For example, we now have included through AI a possibility to anonymize applications. So you apply as normal with your CV and everything, but the AI goes in and take away your personal information. So you don't know these kind of things. You only look at the competence, and maybe you add, for example, ability tests, and you add tools to make it as objective as possible.
Cool.
And that's a big step forward, which is happening now.
Yeah.
So gut feeling, be a bit careful with that. If you have it, at least try to formulate for yourself, why do I feel this way? Why do I like this person? Why do I dislike this person? And try to add more other tools, and that will bring better decisions.
Cool, thank you. We have another question for Henrik. What growing pains are you experiencing in your company? I presume not in
Well, in a sense, it's there are some growing pains now that are similar, that have been sort of the whole time, and it's sort of a company a startup, you start small and then you're growing big. There's a couple of phase changes that you'll go through. Our first was, I was the one doing sort of everything besides coding. A lot of the other co-owners did development, but as I brought in more people, I had done some things before that I was handing over to someone else. So I needed to let go and sort of doing that and actually
trusting it.
Doing that and trusting, and okay, I won't say I'm quiet here.
Yes.
Because if you constantly say things and think things, then you're not allowing the new person to take control.
To take a step back.
Yeah,
actually.
so that's how that has sort of always been with me. That happens now and then. That sort of I need to narrow what I work with and hand things over to someone else, and that's always a big process to do, but it's important to do.
Otherwise, you can't grow, right?
No. Of
Because
course you can't.
If you
'Cause
don't
you
let
need-
people help you, you will never
No.
be a bigger company.
And it's also, I mean, if you're like, for example, if you're a team and you're 6 people and you can share one room, one big table, and then you change and suddenly you're 10 people across 2 rooms,
Yes.
a lot of things change.
Yes.
But if you don't at first realize that, you do things the same way, but you realize they miss out on a whole bunch of things because they're not sitting by our table.
You have to have
And then
other
you have to,
meetings,
you have to change so some of your processes and how you do things. And you need to sort of see those phase changes and sort of adapt to them. Or for us now, we have our Swedish office, we have an office in Germany as well, and that's a big thing, taking care of, it's not 2 rooms, it's 2 countries, different offices, and well, getting the right way of taking care of that, and well, changing the organization as you grow, and adding new positions and moving things around.
So it's really always learning a better way or a different way.
And also to look at that. Is the way we're doing things now and the sort of organization that we have, is that appropriate for what we're doing? Or was it appropriate a year ago and we really should change it now? And if you see that you should, actually do that.
That's kind of objective, stepping out all the time,
and
every
that's
year.
part of,
Yes.
as you mentioned, the mirror process of when you have someone else that you talk to, or that's a big function of for example, an incubator. Did you need to talk things through and you need to present them and you get an outsider's perspective. And sometimes it's a lot easier for them to say, but hey, why don't you have a head of customer service?
Yeah.
That guy doing something else is now only doing that basically. Of course. Sometimes you need, it's easier to get that pointed out.
And sometimes you need a crisis like epidemic or something like that to really shake up and find time to do the things that you do in a different way.
Yeah,
So,
leading us to that, actually, we have only 8 minutes left, so I have to a little bit, but I like your discussion. I just wanted to say to those who listens to this and are wondering, we have the incubator that helps the startups, but we also have 2 programs actually going in helping scale-up leaders too, and trying to get this mirror, but in a new phase. So you can learn different things as you grow. And what one thing we do is we pick in, we match the challenges that you have with external competences that you actually can then have a mirror from. So I just wanted to say that. But if we go to, so COVID has been a great learning, of course, this year. Short comment on this year. Where are you now?
well, I'm at a much better place now than I was 1 year ago, because the companies just pulled the brake quite instantly in March last year.
Yeah.
And that's a troublesome situation
That
when you're a
wasn't the
recruitment
company,
company.
that was the whole market.
That was the whole market.
Nobody recruited, everybody was in shock.
Yeah,
But
but
then-
luckily it's sort of eased up in May, or at least in June. So things are picking up again. I feel a lot of sort of positive energy from companies again, and they have started to recruit salespersons, which is meaning that they believe in the future. They are sort of trying to step up now in order to be ready when everything turns.
And perhaps even your customers needed to look at the recruitment in a new way, more efficient way.
Yeah.
So it was like regrouping for the whole market.
Sure.
And COVID year for you.
Yeah, well, 1 year ago was also a bit of a shake-up and a bit tough. We had revenues falling in Sweden by maybe 30% in just a couple of weeks, and in Germany by 70%. And so you need to sort of feel on the brake, sort of. But it didn't last too long, and then it started to pick up steam again. And I guess for us, well, people started to go by car instead of other ways, and that
So that-
lessened the fall a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, there's been, increased momentum in some parts of what we're doing, because you don't have to go to a parking machine and touch it or touch coins, and especially in Germany, that has been more important. But it's really exciting with this sort of coming spring now, and hopefully a lot better situation, and a lot of things will go into full sort of motion and force again.
So you both feel the positive flow now.
Absolutely.
We really truly looking forward to past COVID, all of us. But to give some of the future scale-up leaders looking at this, your best tips or recommendations, what should they think of, apart from what we've already talked about?
There are a few quick fixes there. I think we have been into perseverance, to stick into the idea and working hard.
And creating culture.
And creating culture is
Worth mentioning
early.
again,
Many companies think that that's something we can work with when we are 20 or 50 or 100.
Yeah.
You need to start early,
Yes.
or it's advantage at least to do it. But also for myself, to celebrate the small victories that you have in the beginning, and because there's so many problems, and to look back, I think I should have started earlier to celebrate, because it brings a lot of energy to the team, and
see the steps
the steps that you take.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add sort of focus to sort of realize what is it that is really important, and do those. We actually still have some things that sort of are like a little bit of a technical embarrassment, saying that, okay, I mean, we're a software company, how come you haven't solved that? Because of focus, because we've said A and B, that's what we should really do, and create world class in. And D that you mentioned doesn't really matter.
Okay.
That's why we still haven't solved it.
Yeah.
And that's an important part, sort of really being
Knowing what you're solving.
laser sharp in your focus, and really thinking hard about what is it that is important. Like if you found out that the middle ground,
Yes.
that's something that they ask, let's do that. And then do that, and don't do everything. Do that.
Focus. Great. And thank you for sharing your experience here today, and good luck in the future. You're also now mentors for some really exciting startups.
Yeah.
Why, and what do you learn from that?
Why is because you asked me. But no, I think this mentorship, sometimes you think that somebody with experience or with contacts should bring on experience to an adapt. But I find that it goes very much in both ways. You sit down and you also again get this mirror on the decisions you made, the journey that you've made, and that's sort of helpful. But also that person has other experiences, so it's very much, it goes both ways, and I gain personally a lot from this situation.
Yeah. And you?
One part is I've had really good use of mentors myself before, so it feels really important to sort of pay that forward. But also, as you mentioned, it's you can gain insight the other way around. You get to see a new company and how they think and how they sort of evolve, and there's lessons that you learn yourself. Also, I think it brings a lot of energy having the discussions, and when you're able to help, that also feels really good.
Exactly. So it pays back just by the feeling.
Yeah.
So thank you. And now you have shared again. So thank you for this. And we are now actually turning the mentorship that has formerly helped 4 companies in the park. We're turning that into the scale-up matchmaking. So you get actually 4 matched experts into your team. So we're moving from 4 to 40 experts or mentors, you could say, going forward. And with that, I hope you share the thanks for the Sharp Minds mentors. And I have another question before I wrap it up. How to? This is okay. 1 minute. How to keep on growing steadily? Do you have a tip? 20-second answer. No.
I mean, I'd say if you find a good thing.
Yes.
You focus on that.
Yeah.
And you just keep innovating.
Yeah. Push the stone forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never stops.
It never stops.
There are new challenges and new bumps in the road.
Yeah.
So
Get used to
and
challenges.
sort of, I mean, realize you're never finished.
You're never finished.
If you're finished, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good ending because we have to finish up now. But we will continue and you'll see more from us. So thank you for staying with us. Bye-bye.